All right. Looks like most everybody is getting connected. Okay. So I guess we can go ahead and at least start introductions so that we get you out of here on time. But first and foremost, my name is Colleen DeLang. I am the head of education here at My Real Source. I know we've got a few people coming in from some different MLSs that we vendor, so welcome. Today, we are going to cover one of my favorite products, which is Cloud CMA. We're also going to show some of the more new interactive features that they've added. I'm a huge fan of Cloud. The reason I guess I like this product so much is right now, of course, we all need more listings. And myself, as an agent of 24 years, listings last, listers last, right? You've always heard that. Well, obviously, right now in this challenging market with low inventory, we all need to take more listings, right? And so we want to make sure that we're winning every single listing presentation. So I'm going to show you some wows. I'm also going to show you some time-saving tips that make it easier. And I'm recording this class. So I think as an agent, one of the things I struggle with is we don't list a home every day. Well, if you do, that's awesome. I, don't always list one every day or every month. So a lot of times it may be a couple of weeks and you want to go back to something that you learned. So we record all of our classes here at My Real Source. I'm going to show you exactly how you can access them going forward. I'm even going to show you the link that you can click on right from Paragon that will take you into all of our upcoming classes. But just before we get started, I'm going to ask for a huge favor from you. There's nothing worse than being a presenter and finding out that you're 10 minutes into a webinar and people can't see and hear you okay. So if I could just have anybody who's on the call today, just open up your GoToWebinar box and put in the questions box that you can see or hear me, we can go ahead and get started right away. The reason that I want you to do that is one, once you open that box, you're going to see how easy it is to ask questions. So if you do have any questions along the way, feel free to just pop open your GoToWebinar box, and that will alert me that you have a question, and I can actually address it right then. Thank you so much, Brooke. Thank you so much, Tabitha. Like I said, there's nothing worse than when as the presenter, you go back into your recording and you realize, oh my gosh, for the first 5 minutes, no one saw me. That's always my biggest fear, right? All right, so with that, I'm going to turn off my fuzzy hair and we're going to actually get right into Cloud CMA. I am going to show you everything from A to Z today. We're going to hop around a little bit because I'm also going to show you how to incorporate some other pieces that you may not have thought of in your CMA. And what I mean by that is most everybody has Cloud CMA, but what makes your CMA better than the person who's maybe getting the listing appointment after you, or maybe they're interviewing multiple agents? You want to make sure that you have everything in yours to educate and wow the seller, but you also don't want to spend hours doing it. So I'm going to show you some shortcuts to make it a whole lot easier. So again, if you have any questions today, just toss them in that questions box. And I'm going to show you where you can find the cheat sheets. I'm going to show you where you can find the class recording and all that good stuff at the end. So hopefully that sounds good. The one thing I do different as the director of education here, being an agent of 24 years, I want to see the finished product first. I mean, I take a lot of classes and then I look at the finished product and I think, you know what, I don't know if I'm ever really going to use that. So I'm going to teach this a little bit different. I'm actually going to show you one of the finished products first, and then we're going to go back. And once you see it and you go, oh yeah, I really like that, I'm going to show you step by step how we created it. So hopefully that makes sense. I kind of like to see what I'm going to learn first so I can understand why I would use that and how is it going to save me time and is it really impressive? The biggest thing with Cloud CMA is that there are several different ways to present your CMA. So the first way I'm going to show you is a PDF, which I generally will save to my desktop. At the end, I'm also going to show you the actual fancy new one that they just created where you can add in these cool video links and video testimonials, but it does some cool things that we've wanted as agents for forever. Like it will allow you, let's use Brooke because she was so kind to answer. So let's say that Brooke is going on an appointment. She's sitting at the table with her seller. And the seller says, well, I see you did this 2 days ago, and thank you, Brooke, but my neighbor closed yesterday, and he said he got more than this. What if I told you that there is actually an interactive map that Brooke can click on, and literally bring that property in as a comp on the fly that will adjust all of the numbers, and make it so she can actually be presenting her CMA. And if a change needs to be made, you can make it with one click. That's what it does. It also allows you, and a lot of times, I'm going to be honest, when we're sitting there and we're talking to our seller, they say, well, what about Joe Schmagegi over here on the corner? And you look and you don't have Joe Schmagegi's address in here. Usually it's not because you forgot it or you did yours 2 days ago and they closed yesterday. It's usually because it's a different style home, right? Sometimes it's 1,000 square feet and you've got a 2,000 square foot colonial. You're not going to compare a brick ranch to a, split level generally, unless there's no other inventory. However, in those cases, the seller may not know why you didn't include that particular comp. They just know maybe it closed for more. Well, yeah, if you've got another 1,000 square feet than the house you're sitting at, it probably did close for a lot more. But it's nice when you can pull those things up in your appointment and you can say, oh, yeah, well, actually, you're a 1,000 square foot brick ranch and they had over 2,000 square feet, but at least you can have those conversations. So even if you choose not to use it as a comp, you're able to address it while you're sitting there. So it's got some really cool features. So with that, again, I'm going to turn off my fuzzy hair. And if you have questions, just simply put them in the questions box. I am going to start with the finished product, and then we're going to go back in step by step exactly how we did it. Okay. All right, so the first thing you need to know is Cloud CMA gives you those different options for presenting. So I just actually pulled up my Cloud CMA that I just recently did, just closed this property about a week ago. Let me open up full screen here too so you can really see it. We're going to do full screen mode. So what I like about this is your branding is down at the bottom. I also really like the fact that it puts the address right on there for you. And this is actually a picture I just pulled from the tax records. So I had not been to this property. I was doing a one-step listing appointment, but I wanted to have a really nice front cover. Now, with the Cloud CMA, you can actually walk up and take a picture right from your tablet if you're using a tablet or a phone, and you could add the picture on the fly. If you don't feel comfortable doing that and you don't have let's say, a photo that you can use from, let's say, the tax records or a public facing source, then you can always just include the Google overhead shot. Personally, don't think that looks as nice. So I'd like to do a little bit of homework so that I usually have a really nice front cover. That's kind of important to me. I have a little OCD, so I definitely care how things look. So keep in mind that you can pull from the tax record photo. You could take a picture just walking up to it. Or if you have previously gone there to meet the seller, you can use that photo by simply importing it too. The next thing is with this company page. So brokers can actually set it up so your company page is automatically included. But a little tip, my broker had not done that. So I simply went to our website and I copied what was on our website. It took me 10 seconds to create this page, pasted it into my company business page. I'm going to show you how to do that every time I create a CMA. The nice thing is this template is already there for me. I'll never have to do that stuff again. It's already created. So when I'm ready and I'm in a hurry to do a CMA, I can have all of this already there for me. I don't have to recreate the wheel every time. Another thing is you can also create different style of templates. So you can have a short template, you can have a long template, you can call your templates whatever you like, and then you can even include custom pages. I'm going to show you how to set all of that up today. I like a contact me page. I tried to have a baby for almost 11 years. So even though he's a little bigger than in this photo, I promise he's going to be on all of my marketing everywhere. So another thing I like to include is where I got the home information. And this is a big one. A lot of times you'll be sitting with a seller and they'll say, well, oh, is that the right square footage? I want to be able to show them where I got their square footage, where I got their home details. So what I generally do is I will go right into the BS&A record, which is always the trusted record, by the way. Or if you use Realist, you can pull both in. I actually pull both in because every once in a while there will be a discrepancy. And I'm going to show you how it will actually point those out so you know which questions to ask. So again, you can have your contact me page. You can even include a QR code here. In the new interactive one, You can even put a video resume, which I love. I just did a quick video shaking hands with the client in front of the sign on my cell phone, had somebody film it for me. And I included some testimonial letters. I made this like 20-second video resume that didn't cost me anything, but it was a great way to present that through a CMA, especially if you're not sitting next to them and presenting it, especially if you're emailing it over to someone or just sending them a link. And again, I'm going to show you step by step how to do all of that. So here we have where we're pulling the property information. So when Marge called me, she goes by Marge. It's actually a little German family, and her real name is Marguerite, as you can see here. But I had never been to the home before, so I needed to know how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. I needed to know when did she purchase it. I needed to know what's the square footage we're looking at, because how can I pull comps if I don't have any of this information? When was it built? Is it built on a basement or a crawl? Did it have a garage? Is it an attached garage? Is it possibly in foreclosure? These are all things that I need to know. What style of home is it? If it's never been listed before in the MLS, how are you pulling it? Is it on acreage? How big is the lot? All of this is included right here in the realist record. Okay, so here's where I'm gathering my facts so that I'm actually comparing apples to apples, right? As I mentioned, you're not going to take a 2,000 square foot colonial and compare it to an 800 square foot brick ranch, right? You're going to try, unless you can't. Sometimes if you're in really rural areas, sometimes you have to. But generally, an appraiser, when they're going out, you want to make sure that the property is going to appraise, and you want to know what it's going to appraise for. So you want to make sure that you're finding like comparables. And that's really what it's about, finding apples to apples. This one I can see had a deck. I can also see it has an attached 2-car garage. I can see what the square footage of the garage is. So all of this information is going to help me find those perfect comps. It's also going to give me a little map view of where it is, and I again can see those lot lines. Now you're probably wondering, Kelly, well, why do you pull in this realist record if you're going to pull in BS&A? What's the difference? And by the way, I have looked up BS&A. I cannot tell you what BS&A stands for. I cannot find it anywhere. I have Googled it no less than 40 times. BS&A basically is the software that municipalities use to put the municipality record for that property up online. There's been a lot of legislation over the last couple of years to get all properties in BS&A or in a online service that people can actually see the information so they can do their due diligence. And there was some legislation recently that within the next 5 years, municipalities are going to be required to put their property information online in programs like BS&A. But I don't know if that even got passed yet. I know that they've been trying for quite some time. But what's important to note is BS&A, or the public record, it's basically the assessor's office for the municipality. That is always the trusted source. So if you are using BS&A, that is truly the most important source, because BS&A is actually the assessor's office for the city or municipality. But what we do is we actually use the live BS&A server. So what does that mean? That means that if you have a client, like I had a client recently who had a bunch of unpaid property taxes. So they went down 2 days before closing and they paid those unpaid property taxes right through the assessor's office. Well, as soon as the assessor that very day marked it paid, we could see that because we're using the live BS&A server. Other MLSs, they use a feed, which can take up to a week to get that information updated. So if you're in a hurry and you're trying to close something cash, that's not so much going to work for you, right? So this is a way, by having that live BS&A server, I can see up to the minute changes. BS&A, again, is the trusted source from the assessor's office. It's the one, if you ever went to court, you had a legal situation, this is the one the judge is going to look at because it comes from one source, and it's the actual city source or municipality, I should say. It's going to have a lot of the same information as the realist record, but I always pull both because every once in a while, and let's see if there's one on this, every once in a while, you will see a discrepancy because this record, the realist record that we're looking at right now, is a combined source. And what that means is every once in a while, you'll see that the MLS says one thing, but the assessor's office says something different. And I know what you're thinking right now. Well, how could that be? That doesn't even make sense. Well, let me tell you a true story that recently happened to me. And that's why we actually have real life realtors teach these classes, is because there's something about a tech person teaching you a program versus someone who's really gone through these experiences. And I swear, in real estate, you cannot make this stuff up. I literally had a seller steal the grass. I know it sounds stupid, but literally a seller rolled up with a sod cutter in the night and moved the grass to his new construction home. You can't make stuff like this up in real estate. So anyway, in this particular example, I had noticed, and I generally, because I work full time at the MLS, I generally one step my listings. If I had more time, I would love to do them two step, but it just, it doesn't work out for me. So when I was preparing for this particular listing, I noticed in Realist, it said that it was a two-story in the MLS, but the tax or assessor record had it as one story. Seems pretty odd. You would know if it had a second story on it, right? So clearly I pull up in the driveway and I can see there is two stories on this home. Now, the realist record, when it has a discrepancy like that, it's really just a flag to tell you, oh, I need to ask this question. Why does it say one thing here and one thing here? Or sometimes taxes are different. And so it's kind of like your flag to ask that question. So sure enough, went in, really, really nice gentleman. And I said, I'm just a little confused. I see here it says one story, but it's clearly a second story. He goes, oh, yeah, I actually own a dormer company. I did all that myself. I just completed it not that long ago. So what had happened was, and I asked the question, right? That's what it's here to do, is to help me ask those questions. I said, well, hey, great. Did you pull a permit? Does the city know? And he said, no, he did it all on his own, didn't realize he needed to do that. So I would think if you owned a dormer company, you would probably check on that. But anyway, our next call was to the city so that we could make sure it got inspected and got that permit, so there were no delays in our closing. The point is, I wouldn't have known to ask that question if I hadn't seen that discrepancy. So every once in a while, those discrepancies, whether they're square footage, whether they're how they purchased the home, whether they're taxes, it's just kind of an indicator, hey, I need to ask that question. I also really like BS&A because many of the BS&A sources are now including things like unpaid water bills. As you know, water stays with the home. So recently, I literally had a client who had renters in there, and when I got there, water was running all over the floor. It was a hot mess. But they had $1,000 unpaid water bill. And when you're talking a $50,000 house, because that seems to be the only price bracket I get into down in that one particular area, that's a big swing on a $50,000 house. If you're netting them out, $1,000 is a big deal. That, and unpaid property taxes, that can definitely affect your net out. So long story short, checking both of these records is really imperative. And I not only, as you can see from the CMA we're looking at, I not only check these records, I actually pull them into the CMA, because when they look at me and they say, well, Colleen, how do you know it's only such and such square footage? I want to have where I got it from. I am kind of that person. I remember Floyd Wickman. I don't know if anybody remembers him. I was a huge fan of him. He was a great real estate coach, very funny, kind of like Dave Ramsey is now, very entertaining. But he would always say, Colleen, why should they trust you? You're there as a guest and you show them everything. You don't give your opinion. You don't tell them something. You show them everything on paper until they know that you really care about them and you're going to take good care of them. I thought that was a great rule to live by, especially when you're doing CMAs. Show them everything. Once you're their friend, they'll start to trust you and you don't have to show them everything. But in the beginning, you want to show them everything. Where did I get this from? Did I make up this number? No, it came right from the assessor's office. So hopefully that helps a little bit too. Okay, so moving forward, obviously having both that realist record, having the BS&A record, and having them inserted right into my CMA is really important. This is another piece that every time I do a CMA, I absolutely include. And I have to tell you, it really is powerful. And it takes literally two clicks to create this awesome graph that you're looking at. So let me kind of break it down. When I'm going on a CMA appointment, I always want to educate the seller on exactly what's happening. So if I'm going to give them a price range, I want them to know how I got that price range, and where in the price range I think they should go. So this is an easy way to educate a seller. So right now, when I when I went on the listing presentation for this home, this particular city in Clinton Township was down 42.7%. Okay, so almost 43% in listing inventory, right? So I can see that right here, homes for sale. This actually does the rolling month. It's behind one rolling month because they're gathering all the data for that month. But I can see in March of 2023, there were 89 listings on the market. I can also see, whoops, go back. I can also see that there are 51 homes on the market of March of 2024. So what does that tell us? That's where we get our almost 43% down in inventory. So supply and demand, right? So now we look at our average sales price. Last year, our average sales price, because there wasn't that much to sell last year, by the way, it was 271,000. This year, it's 321,000 is the average sales price. So what are we saying? Well, we're saying we're looking at about a $50,000 increase in your sales price. And what's driving it? Obviously, that low inventory, because we're educating the seller. How long is it going to take to get that property pending? How long is it going to take to close that property, or days on market until it's sold? All of that is here. If you are looking for a condo in Clinton Township, I want to have that. If you're listing a condo in Clinton Township, I want to have that as well. That's a different animal, right? That one's only down 17.5%. There were 40 on the market last year, only 33 on the market this year. So again, we have that shortage. And again, we're seeing something similar, but in this case, we're only seeing about a $40,000 increase in our average sales price. I love these graphs. And when I show you how easy it is to make it, having it in my CMA, I think is huge. Also showing them a comparable map of where I'm getting their comparables, the actual streets. But the comparables themselves are obviously what's so important, especially when you're sitting at their kitchen table. Now, as I mentioned in the new live version I'm going to show you later, you're going to be able to, even if it's not in your CMA, you're still going to be able to touch a button and pull it in your CMA. But I like this one. I like that the comparables have all the details. And I also always include all of the photos. Not a huge fan of that color personally, but when they asked me, hey, Colleen, did Joe Schmagegi on Annapolis Drive, did they have a finished basement? Well, I want to be able to go into the details and show them, yes, actually, they did have a partially finished basement, as we can see here, right? I want to have that level of detail. This is also included in the interactive, but I like to include all of the photos. So as we're going through, not only do I have all the details from the MLS, which are imported automatically for me, but I can clearly see when they say, hey, does it have a finished basement? Did it have an attached car garage? Was it updated? I can see all of those things very quickly. And so we can address any concerns they may have. I also like a lot of the Cloud CMA pre-written marketing pages. It tells me with one glance, I don't have to do any of this. This is all done for you. It tells me with one glance that properties right now are selling for 105% of what they're listed, and the average here is 13 days on market. It does break down price per square foot. It does break down days on market of the list, so you can quickly see that. I can also do a summary of comparable properties. I can also put in our suggested list price. And why this becomes important is sometimes when it comes to the comps, if your home is the only one that hasn't been updated, the home you're about to list, sometimes your suggested list price isn't exactly what all of the other comps are pointing to, right? So you have to be able to adjust that. And so they give you the room to do that. And by the way, if you chose not to include that page, you can do that too. So all of these pages can be customized, and you can choose whether or not you want to include them. To how we actually got the $230 price per square foot. Then you also have the ability to create some custom pages, which is what you're looking at right now. I should probably fancy this up a little bit. I've been using it a long, long time. One of the questions that I always get when I'm meeting it with a seller is, well, Colleen, are you going to put my house on Zillow? Molly, you can put my house on realtor.com, or how are you going to market my house? So because that question started coming up so many times, I just decided I'd rather handle that question right in the CMA. So I made this little thing, and you're welcome to reach out to me. I can send it to you. I'll scrape my logo off and you can use it for yours. But basically, I just created all the top brand logos. And I know that my particular broker syndicates right now to over 400 sites. So I just put it right in there so I could handle that objection before they even asked it. I can actually say, yes, you're going to be on all of these sites plus, 400 more, because we syndicate to here, here, and here. So again, trying to handle those objections even before the seller gets a chance to ask them. That's really the name of the game, right? Is don't let them ask a bunch of objections, handle them, make them feel completely comfortable with that as you're going through the CMA. Okay, so if you like what you just saw, that is the PDF version of your CMA. So that is the one where you can save it to your desktop. You can pull it open from cloud if you prefer. I'm going to show you how to build that. And if you like that, you're going to love the new interactive one. So you're probably thinking, well, how did you get all that stuff in there? Because some of those pieces were there, but some of those pieces are not there. And the answer is you're absolutely correct. We're going to go through building it step by step. I'm going to take you from A, doing the research, to B, inserting it, and then C, finding the comps, hitting the easy button, and pulling it all in. So it really is about 4 steps in total. I'm going to go through it. It's going to obviously take me a little longer because I'm going to go over all the bells and whistles and try to explain it and give you analogies and examples of what you would use different things for. But on average, my CMAs take anywhere from 7 to 9 minutes. Now, if they're extremely unique properties, yes, sometimes they do take more. But if I had an agent call and she's like, it takes me 2 hours to do a CMA, and I'm like, that is too long. Next time you could be prospecting. So how do we cut that time down? So I'm basically going to show you all the research. It is going to take a little longer to do our CMA, but no, on average, you should be spending between about 7 and 9 minutes to create your CMA. It's not hard. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get back in out of here. We're going to go back into where all of the magic happens. And that's, of course, Paragon. So you should be able to see the MLS at this point. The only difference is my MLS middle section may look a little bit different than yours. And the only thing is, it just depends on which MLS you belong to. Some of the MLSs allow their brokers to customize that center section. Some of the MLS have their MLS page kind of like this in the center section, but obviously for your MLS, everything else is going to be the same. But just keep in mind, if the center section looks a little bit different than yours, it's totally good. Up here at the top, I do have the spring version here, but you can change it. I should be putting the 4th of July one. There's dozens of different themes that you can choose from right under your preferences. But for today, we're really going to try to go in and start off with our homework. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm doing my homework on a property is I want to see, has it ever been listed before? And the easiest way to do that is obviously up here at this power search. As I start typing in 41539 Wessel, I can see, oh yeah, this is actually closed multiple times. I can also see if it's expired, if it's pending, if it's active. Actives and pendings always shoot up at the top. But I like to kind of do a little homework, like when did they buy it? What did they buy it for? What type of financing? If I see it's VA, I want to ask them, hey, do you use someone in the military? These are all questions that I want to be able to ask. Because if it's VA, they might have an assumable and, the things that we need to know. So if I look at these records, I'm not sure which was the last closed record. So what I really want to do is I want to go up to where it says listings 3. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. That opens up all 3 of those listing records for me. I can see the agent who had it listed, so I know which one was mine. By the way, you'll notice it's in red because if it's your inventory, it will show up in red. But let's say I wanted to find out the listing before I had it. I can actually open this up. And then, of course, you have these great little colorful icons right here. Now, a lot of people don't know this. But those really helpful icons, they will take you into all different programs for this specific property. The first one we're going to start with, as I mentioned, is Realist. I want to make sure I'm going in and I'm gathering all of the property specifics. So when I clicked on that red button, it brought me right to the property specifics. And I kind of chose this one for a reason. It has some really good examples. Here I can see the how many baths, how many bedrooms. If there was a difference between the tax and MLS, it's telling you where the source came from. So I can see it's one full bath and one half bath, and that's according to the MLS. If the tax or municipality record was different, next to it, it would say, but the tax says this. So I would know that would be one of those flags that I need to ask about. I can also see oh, my good friend Ed Martin, who I have to call after this class, who had it listed last. Again, if it's been in foreclosure or if they've recently refied, I can see that. All of that's going to be listed here because let's face it, sometimes, unfortunately, especially when it's going into a foreclosure situation, they don't always want to tell us upfront and right away, right? And so sometimes we have to actually bring up the question. So having this realist record, I think, is really, really helpful. What I generally do when you're on that red icon, I go and I print it right over here to the right, and I hope your GoToWebinar box is not covering it, but right over here to the right where it says print this and save it. I usually print it as a PDF and save it right to my desktop so I can quickly pull this in when I'm doing my CMA. Okay, so how did I get here again? I just pulled up the property address right from that little quick search at the top here, or I'm sorry, the power search at the top, and then I clicked on this red button. But there's also another record that I mentioned, and that's the BS&A. As I mentioned, that BS&A record is really important because that's going to allow us to see the live assessor's office. So as I click that button, what it's doing is it's taking me directly to BS&A for that specific property. Now, not all of our vendored MLSs have that deep linking. So if you don't have it at your particular MLS, just reach out to your MLS, whether it's Saginaw or UPAR or whoever you're with, and let them know that you're interested in that deep linking. And then that's something that we can add on for your MLS if it's not there already. What I like here is, again, this is where I'm gathering all that valuable information. But remember how I said it's really nice you can actually go in and use a public record photo? Now, of course, I would not steal another agent's photo from the MLS. I do not recommend that. But this is actually a public record photo. So what I generally do is I will right click on it. First, I click on it to blow it up. And I just click Save Image As. I generally will save that to my desktop as well. So I'm creating a little file that I can put all this data directly into my CMA. So hopefully that's making sense. I also like that more and more of the municipalities are putting on assessments. A lot of them are putting on unpaid water. So just by clicking, and I print, by the way, I print these as PDFs as well and pull them into my CMA. So I just go up to this print button and then I save them. A lot of times they will have things like floor plans in here. So here's an Adobe PDF that contains the floor plan of that property. Helps me visualize too. This looks like at one point it might have actually been a survey, or maybe it's the floor plan from the city, but having all of that and making it easy right in my CMA. So again, when I start, I usually like to start from the property. By the way, if the property has never been listed, as you can see, this one closed a couple times, so I like to do my homework. But if the property's never been listed, you can always start out at the tax button at the top. So if you typed it in, nothing comes up, don't panic. You can always go and do a search manually through Realist or BS&A. I just like it because if it's ever been listed, and we go back 15 years of listing history, so most times you do find that the property has been listed, and it's a lot easier to click on this little kind of looks like a garbage can. I apologize. It's not supposed to look like a garbage can. It's supposed to look like a government pillar, they told me, but when they stuffed it onto the button, it looks a little more like a garbage can in my opinion. I apologize. But that allows you to go right into that specific record. Over here, if you click on that red one, that's going to be your real list. But either way, it's easy to find that property information. Okay, so now we know how many bedrooms. Now we know how many bathrooms. Now we know if it has an attached garage or not, right? We know it's on a basement. We have enough to start building our CMA. The one other piece, though, that I recommended, you're going to find under resources. And I think you'll really like this. Under resources, you'll have a bunch of tools. And by the way, if you're with another MLS, this can vary Some have more tools, some have less tools. But the one that I showed you, that great graph that we created, that is under the social media and lead gen under resources. And it's called market stats, right? Because that's what you're giving them. But there's a secret hidden button. So let me show you where it is. Because when I first clicked in here, I didn't know this button. So up here, where it says fast stats, this is my friend because this makes it super easy. All you're going to do is find the county. So in my area, I'm going to click on Macomb County and the city. It's that easy. So you're going to find the city, the county, and the city. So if I'm going on a listing appointment in Shelby Township tomorrow, I'm going to click on Shelby Township. And again, creating that graph. Now it's a total different story in Shelby right now. Look at this. So we're only down 4.7% in Shelby Township right now. We had 122 homes on the market last year, 122. By the way, this is June's stats. So only 122 on the market this year. So creating about a 5% deficit. Let's take a look at our average sales price, still going up in our sales price. So we've added on another $9,000 on average for closed properties. Again, breaking condos down separately. Now, I do know they just put in a very large new condo complex. That's why the condos are up so much more. We've got condos up 40%. But of course, that tells the story. So I love to include this. I usually do the same thing. I print this as a PDF so that I can pull it in. So I usually hit print, Adobe PDF, and then I will save that to my desktop so that I can pull that in as well. So I've done all my homework now. I know what's going on in the area. I know what the house looks like, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms. Now it's time to do the hardest part of the CMA, finding the comparables. So let's try to make that a little easier. In our CMA, we're going to go to search because we're trying to find those like properties. So we're going to go up to our search icon. And obviously it depends on what you're listing. If you're looking for you're listing vacant land, that's what you're going to search for. But we're going to do kind of run of the mill today. We're going to go single family residential. Anyway, you can do so much under search. You can find other agents and their listings. You can find your own inventory for a certain date. If you want to call expireds, you can use hot sheets to find yesterday's expireds or a week ago. There's also an auto hot sheet, which knows when you last logged into it and gives you everything from that point on. So there's a whole bunch you can do in searches. You can save searches and go back to them. You can save them and set them up for auto prospecting for your clients using the Collab Center. So a lot of stuff you can do right through here. But right now, we're just going to look for some comparables. So we're going to start off by clicking search for a single family home. At this point, now we're going to put in what we're looking for. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize you can actually customize what you want in this search, and you can customize where it is. So one of the cool things is I was teaching in Detroit not that long ago, and they said, Colleen, we would never search that because Detroit is so big, we have to be able to search by zip code. And I said, okay, great. Let's add in that zip code field. We can do that. You can put pretty much anything in here. All you're going to do is go up to customize and fields. If you want it in a different order, let's say you want zip, but you don't use it a whole lot, you're going to move it to the bottom. You can actually drag and drop where you want these fields located. So not only can you customize and pull things out that you don't use, but you can add things in that you do. So don't be afraid to customize your search. Like I said, all you want to do is remember to save it. As you can see, I move zip is down here instead of up here. It will remember your preferences, but I like the fact that there's something that you're searching on quite often and you don't want to always have to scroll down to the bottom to find it. Well, remember, you can move it right up to the top. Like for me, square footage, kind of a big field. I don't know why I want to always go to the bottom to find that, right? I kind of want it right up here at the top. Of course, you can pull up your last searches or your saved searches from here too. Let's go in. Let's look for some comparables for this property. So we know it's a single family home. We're not going to put in our area because I want to determine the right area as far as what an appraiser would use. And I also want to determine what the price is. So I'm going to leave those two blank. However, I only want to show that seller what the home is going to sell for. I don't care about leases. The status I'm looking for, of course, the biggest one is closed. Now, That's where we're always driving the numbers from. The numbers, the financing, always the closed number is the most important. However, I also want to pull in actives and pendings because I like to also show them what their competition is in the neighborhood, and how long it maybe took something to go pending. So I like to have all of that in my CMA. I'm also going to be honest, I hate these MLS calendars. I really prefer the easy date range. So I know in this area, an appraiser is going to go back 6 months. So that's what I'm going to select. Now, keep in mind, if you're coming in from one of our vendored MLSs, and let's say you're in a very rural area, or let's say there's such a low amount of inventory, it's hard to find comps. Sometimes you do have to open these parameters up. I'm going to kind of give you the basics here, but sometimes you can't stay in 1 mile. Sometimes if you're located in a really rural area, there might not be another house for 1 mile. I'm going to give you the standards and the basics according to the appraisers, but keep in mind, sometimes you have to play with those a little, and I'm going to show you how to do that too. All right. The next thing I want to do is I want to start putting in apples to apples. So in this particular home, I could see that it was a 1-story brick home. So when I'm looking for inventory, that's really what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to try to first stay within the specifics. So I happen to see that it was a 3-bedroom home from the tax records. And I also noticed that there was a bath and a half. So I'm going to do 1 to 2 baths. Now, if you wanted to be more specific, a lot of people don't know this is here, so this is kind of like a little time-saving tip here. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, okay, there is another box called secondary criteria. If you click on it, it doesn't look like anything happens, but trust me, it does. It actually opens up more detailed fields. So if you wanted to put 1 full bath and 1 half bath, you could even be more specific than just 1 to 2. You could say 1 full, 1 half, and that would be even more specific. So keep in mind that that secondary criteria that's hitting down there, don't be afraid to expand those. Or by the way, if you don't want them down there, you can even move them into your primary criteria. Remember, customize is your friend. All right, so we've got, yes, we know it has a basement because we saw that. Yes, we know that it had a garage, so I'm going to do yes. Of course, you can add more level of detail. If you've got too many properties in your counts of your results, you could always say maybe you just want to show attached garages like there. So keep in mind, you can even go a little further with these features. So maybe I'm only wanting comps with attached garages. Well, you could do that. In this low inventory market, though, I'm not going to do that because I'll be lucky if I get 3 to 5, which is generally what I shoot for in a CMA. It's hard to find enough inventory out there to really do a great job right now because there's just not that much in the way of properties that are being listed or pending. So in this case, we've got our bedrooms, we've got our bathrooms. Of course, I would put in things like school district, obviously, is very important. And the big one, what about square feet? So everybody always, especially if they're new, always asks me the same question. Well, Colleen, what's the range like for square footage? Like if it's 800, what's the max and the minimum I should be? And the answer is 20%. All of my appraiser friends, and I think I've asked about 19 of them now, they all tell me, look, it's the 20% square footage rule. That's what the bank's required. Now, again, your caveat is if you're in a really rural area or there's not a house for 2 or 3 miles, sometimes you have to play with that number. But always try to start, especially in this area, it's kind of cookie cutter home area. 20% is the rule. So you're probably thinking, okay, so how do I figure that out if you're new? Let me just show you. You're going to figure that out by just grabbing your calculator and just figuring out what 20% of the home is. So at this point, I know it's 1361 is our square footage. So I'm going to multiply that by 20%, and about 270 is where I'm looking. So I take that 270 and my 1361, right? My top end is going to be about 1630. That's going to be the top. So then I'm going to do that same thing. So let me go ahead and type in our top square footage. I think I said 1630, I think I said. Then I'm going to do that same thing. We're going to take that number, that 1361, and we're going to minus that 270. And so we're looking at about 1,000. So 1,089. So we'll do 1,090. So that's give us our square footage range. So that's going to be our 20% square footage rule because even though, and I know what you're probably thinking right now, everybody's saying, well, Colleen, what does it matter what it appraises for? Things are selling so fast. Well, let me tell you, it should matter to you because if you, especially if you let's say you get a great conventional offer, and you need to know if it's going to be up here and it's going to appraise down here, someone's going to have to make up that gap, right? And you're going to need to know what is it going to appraise for? What do I have comps to make it appraise that I can guarantee, right, that it's going to at least get this? And then obviously with things selling more, I still like to have my comps. Not saying we can't take that, but I want to make sure that someone's, if it's a 50 grand difference in our offer, where's that 50 grand coming from? So hopefully you get a cash offer and doesn't really matter, right? And sky's the limit, but it doesn't always work like that. So you do want to know what that property, what basic comps and what should that square footage rule be so that you can utilize that and make sure that you're in that right ballpark. So hopefully that's making sense. Okay, so we've got our square footage in. We've told, but guess what? You're looking up here and you're thinking 4,000 comps, Colleen, you're going to be there till doomsday presenting the CMA. Well, nope, we got one more really important detail, right? Location, location, location. But what's an appraiser going to do, especially in this area? Well, they're going to try to stay within 1 mile, right? So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to go into my search by map after adding my criteria. Here's a little tip. Add all your criteria first because you don't want to load 5,000 properties on your map, right? So add in as much search criteria as you can. Now I want to go up here where you're seeing my mouse and I want to put in the actual address because your map, if you don't know this, it actually is always going to open to your office location. So this X is the office location. You can change that in your preferences too, by the way. But I want to take it from my office to the subject property. So I'm going to go up to where it says enter address and I'm going to type it out. But there's a trick. Okay, so here's your next time saving tip. You want to think of this like Google, because it actually uses Google Maps. So that kind of makes sense. The less information you give it, the better off you're going to be. And what I mean by that is this happens to be 41539 Wessel Drive. Leave off the drives, leave off the places, the courts, the ways, because I promise you, a lot of times it will screw it up. If it's abbreviated and yours is not, vice versa, it can mess things up. So what I have made the rule, and it always comes up for me, very rarely do I have a property not pop up immediately. You want to do 41539 Wessel, comma, the city. If you just put those two small pieces of information in, you'll find that it immediately pulls back that result for you. So I clicked on the magnifying glass and what happened is my subject property, you can see where we've moved our map. My subject property is now highlighted with a flag. I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit so you can see it. And I now see where my listing appointment is, but now I want to do what an appraiser is going to do. And an appraiser is literally going to create a 1 mile radius from that property when they're trying to find comps. Again, in rural areas, you might have to play with this, but I'm going to show you a little trick on that too. So I'm going to do 1 mile radius. Okay, so now that I have my radius in, you can kind of see that not a whole lot on the market. There's a few, but then people always ask me, what are these numbers? What are these little clustered numbers? Well, that just means that the property flags are really close together. And as you zoom in, it will break them apart. But if they're right on top of each other, they're very hard to grab. So what I generally do is I will zoom in on them. I'll click on it. And right over here, I can see all the information. If I want to go property by property, I can click right here and go through each and every one of them. It makes it really, really easy. Let's say that, and I'm going to use Brooke again. Brooke is going to list her parents' home. They live a couple hours away, and she's not going to drive all the way up there and check out the neighborhood. Well, hopefully she's visiting her parents, but I'm sure she would. But let's say she hasn't and hasn't seen the home. The last thing she's going to want to have to do is drive all the way up there, take pictures, come all the way back and do her CMA. She kind of wants to see what the neighborhood looks like. So she's actually going to be able to use this. And I, for the longest time, always saw this guy, but never really took advantage of him. This little yellow Google man over here. And we've all seen him on, different Google Maps. But what I love is that you literally can walk a neighborhood that you have not been able to take time to go look at, especially if you're listing several hours away. You can literally drag that little yellow Google man in front of your property that you're about to list, and you can literally walk down the street to the left, to the right, and see the entire neighborhood. So I am just doing a little view here. By the way, it will also put that same subject flag on the property. So I know, in fact, this is going to be my listing appointment. Again, I can see that the house to the left has a for sale sign. I know I want to include that comp, right? But I literally can walk through the entire neighborhood and check it out. So I can see if it's a depreciating neighborhood, if it's a home where the lots are larger. I can see all of that from here, and I really love that. When I'm ready to jump back into my map, I'm going to just hit that arrow. By the way, if you set up your buyers in Paragon's Collab Center, they can do that same thing on every single listing that you send out to them. So I think that's very cool. Some other things. These are little things, little tips and tricks that I did not know. And so when I was creating this class, I'm like, oh, I wish somebody would have told me that like years ago. So here's your next tip. Let's say that, Judith, we're going to use Judith. Judith just listed a bunch of $1 million. We're going to pretend that this is the beautiful lakefront property. Okay, so we're going to say this is waterfront. And Judith Owens has been hard at work, and she has just listed 3 magnificent $1 million waterfront properties. Well, Brooke's going on her listing appointment, and although we're excited for Judith, if we include those properties, boy, is it going to screw up our CMA numbers, right? Or I'm going to have to go and deselect those individually. I don't want to have to do that. So what if I told you you could actually exclude waterfront? Really, really easy to do. Let me show you. So I'm going to go over to this draw here. And I'm going to say, although we are so excited for Judith, she's got all these $1 million listings, and that's awesome, but we don't want to bring those into our CMA. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of trace, actually, I'm going to kind of trace that waterfront. Hopefully I got those in there. Kind of doing this with one hand there. Because I basically don't want to include any of that waterfront property. So let me show you again how I got there. Plus I can make that a little straighter. With my OCD, I was like, oof, that's not good. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to click on my draw tool here. I selected the polygon. And all I want to do is I just want to say anything that would be waterfront. I don't want to include that in my CMA because it's really going to mess up my numbers. So I've now created a shape of the waterfront. And you're probably thinking, lady with fuzzy hair, the $1 million listings are still there. Well, one more step. We're actually going to take it from includes to excludes. Now, although we're excited that Judith has those $1 million listings, we don't have to go in and deselect all of those from our CMA. I thought that was so cool when I saw it because there are times I listed a house recently in this little subdivision, and it was the cutest little subdivision. I did my 1 mile radius, and then I realized half of the subdivision was built in 1930. There were these cute little brick ranch homes. However, I was there to list a new construction home that certainly would have not benefited if I had used all of those homes that were, built in the 30s and 40s. So the idea is I was able to actually use the map, and I could see where and you can actually change this too. So you could do like an aerial view, but I could see where the smaller homes started, and I literally drew it that way. And of course you can zoom in or out. And I drew the map there. So I was only getting the new construction homes, and you can actually zoom in much further than that, but for the sake of time, I just kind of wanted to show you. So don't be afraid. If there's something that's bringing in a lot of homes that are unlike yours in your mile radius, don't be afraid to exclude that, especially for waterfront. That's where I probably use that the most. But let's say Brooke is working so hard, she's got, all the listing information in here, but she pulls no comps. Now, Brooke could go up and she could go to search radius and put in 5 miles or 7 miles. But then you know what ends up happening? You get like 16 properties in there, and now you've got too many. And you just really kind of want to stay as close to the property without going too far out. Well, that's really easy to do if you just go to your shape over here you click into the shape, it'll allow you to adjust it just slightly. So let's say I didn't want to go 2 miles or 1.75. I mean, you could do whatever you want. You could do 1.8 miles if you wanted. But in this case, I just kind of want to open it up a little bit more. And look what just happened. Now, three more comps were just one street away from where I started. So don't be afraid to click into your shapes over here. And all you have to do to open this up, all you're going to do is click that edit button. It'll open up your shapes. Don't be afraid to actually click in your shape, right? Just click right in the middle here. And don't be afraid if you haven't got any comps, just open that up a little more or a little less. And that will allow you to see if there's any comps just laying outside of your circle. All right, so hopefully you're picking up a couple of good tips as we're going along. So now we've got our comps starting to flow in. I also like that if you missed anything, you can always go back to your criteria with one click. I can see I have 10 comps that are coming in, but if I wanted to make it more detailed, I could do that. If I wanted to, again, put in a brick ranches to try to keep it more apples to apples, I could do that. If I wanted to put attached garage, I could do that. But for the sake of time today, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to run our search because I'm going to show you the easy button to pull all of those into cloud. Now, as I mentioned, I have a little OCD, so I hate when it opens and it's all discombobulated like this. I have also added some fields that I find really helpful. In my 24 years of selling real estate, I have been really blessed. I have worked with some amazing agents. I've also worked with some, if I never get another PA from them, I'm going to be okay with that too. But Dominic Torres happens to be one of my favorite agents. He's actually out of my office. I've really, really like him. So if I am showing homes, I like to see who has them listed, because if I'm going to show 5 houses and Dominic has one of the listings, I'm going to put him on top. Saying I wouldn't show the other ones, because in this market I'll show anything, but sometimes it's nice when you've worked with other agents before, you can put them at the top of the list. All right, so but I like to organize these a little better. So my point of having OCD is that you can always go in and simply click on the status and you can organize them. So actives are with actives, closed are with closed, coming soons. Obviously, that one hasn't hit the market yet, not in the activation date period yet, and then our pendings. So if I am doing a real life CMA, I know I'm really shooting for between 3 and 5 closed properties, which I have here. So that's kind of why I use this example. I also, again, want to have those actives. Coming soon is going to be competition for this listing. And I also want to show pending, especially if it's pending for a higher number. So I'm just going to choose all of these for the sake of time. If there was one you did not want to use, and again, I would put in things like school district. I can see there's one in my 1 mile radius that has a different school district. So maybe I want to deselect that particular one. Again, I don't like when it looks messy like this. I only like to see what I'm working with. So for me, one of the things I like to do is I like to just hit this checked button at the top. Now I'm only seeing the ones that I've selected for the CMA. All right, so next up, we're going to find the easy button. This is the most important thing. If you take away nothing else from today, take away that your easy button kind of looks like a plug here. It's your actions right up here at the top. If you click on that actions button, what it's literally doing is it's pulling those properties into Cloud CMA for you. So I'm going to click actions and Cloud CMA. It's that simple. All you have to do now is float through Cloud. You've just done the hardest part of your entire CMA, which is finding your comparables. So what do you have to do at this point? Well, you're going to name your CMA. So if you want to go back and change things, let's say that they wait a couple weeks before they list and you want to pull it back up, you can find it. You can also put in confidential notes here. All of the MLS numbers that we selected for our comps are already here. Nothing I have to do. Right here, because I now want to bring in additional information, all I have to do is start typing in the address. So I'm going to say 41539 Wessel. You can see it quick fills right away for me. See, it's pulling in 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. If you need to change it, you can do that. Just simply change it. And now I want to pull in a great looking cover. So I'm actually going to click on my photos from my desktop. There's my photo from our tax records. And you can even crop it, by the way, if you wanted to maybe make it a little smaller. Maybe I don't want to show that sidewalk there. You can crop it as well. Now I've got my photo inserted for a great looking cover. Now, Cloud CMA itself is literally it's basically 3 tabs. The first one is it's just showing you everything you brought from the MLS. It's walking you through. The last one, Publish, is really just a save. So that don't even think of that as another tab. It's just your save button. If you ever have to come back and make changes to your report, you're going to go back and hit your Publish, which will resave all of that into your report. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Now I'm going to hit Fetch Listings, and all the hard work is being done for me. It's grabbing my template, grabbing my company page. All of that is carrying over so that I can go ahead and start to, oh, my photo was too big. Sorry about that. I'm going to have to pick a little smaller photo. We'll try. I edited some of these, so I think they look a little bit too, some of them are a little bit too big. We'll try to do that. Was wondering why it took a second to load. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to pull all of that data. We're going to fetch our listings, because while it's pulling all of that information in, now I want to decide, okay, how do I want to display this? And this second page, this listing page, by the way, is really for you, the agent. And it's really one more chance to just look over the comps that we selected. So let's say you got all the way to this point. And I can kind of see right over here to the right, it's kind of an agent breakdown, what the average is. But I can see I left one in that was it was really an outlier, right? It was 355. It really wasn't like the others. So maybe I want to deselect that pending so it's not viewed by that homeowner. I don't want them to get crazy with this price, right? So maybe I want to deselect that particular comp. You certainly can do that from here. If you want to review a comp, or put notes on it. Like I used to be that agent who always had all the sticky tabs on their CMA, like this one didn't have a garage, or this one had way less square footage, or this one only had one full bathroom. You can actually do that same thing right in the notes category. So it's bringing over all the MLS information, but you could leave detailed notes that maybe you don't want to forget to point out instead of having those ugly sticky tabs all over everything like I used to. You can actually put this home is the only home in the neighborhood with a 1-car attached garage instead of 2. You can also go through as the agent, see all of the photos, just in case you want to do a second look. There's also a place that you can do adjustments. Now, I have to be honest, I wish I was like that lady, Joanna Gaines, where like she walks into a house and she just has this brain, we'll just knock out this wall and then we can do this. I am not that person. So I need a tool for that. There is a great tool that no one seems to know about in RPR. And RPR is not something that is given to you from the MLS, by the way. RPR is actually something you get from the National Association of Realtors. Although I don't use a lot in RPR, there is something called the Hanley Woods or refined value model. And I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing it. It's not really part of the class, but I use it a lot. If you are interested in seeing it, put it in the questions and I will show it to you. It's basically a way that it takes the parcel. And so for instance, if you were to walk into your listing and they just put in a $10,000 remodel on the kitchen, and they did that same $10,000 remodel in California, it's going to be worth more on the California home, right? It's going to bring up that value even more. Even though they paid the same, it's going to be parcel based. So what it allows you to do is simply answer a couple questions as the agent. It takes the parcel and it actually creates a value. Like if your house is the only one that doesn't have a garage, you can actually even figure out a negative value, like what the value of the garage is in that area. So you can say, okay, well, we're going to subtract about approximately 4,000 because it's the only one that doesn't have it. So I never could find that information anywhere. So when I found this tool, I was like, oh my gosh, that's really cool. So again, if you would like to see it, oh, maybe we did have somebody. Oh, okay. Yes, I will show it. Thank you for letting me know. Because I never want to bore anybody if if it's not their cup of tea. But for me, I just needed some type of value to say, okay, you're the only house in the neighborhood that doesn't have a finished basement or isn't on a basement. How do you figure out the negative calculation for that? So it is through RPR, and let me show you. And you can create reports on it too, by the way. So I'm going to kind of jump you around for just one second. Bear with me. There is a link right to RPR right in Paragon. It's under resources, and you'll see it says RPR homepage. This RPR is where you can go in, and again, what you're doing is you're finding positive or negative values based on a property. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to use our example address because I never knew this was here. So if you did, that's awesome, but bear with me 1 second, I'll walk you through it. All you do is simply type in the address, and again, it will quick fill for you. So if I start typing in our 41539 Wessel, it's going to start giving me, again, great photos that I can use. It'll give you, if there's foreclosures in the area, it'll give you a foreclosure map. It just does a lot of cool things. But what I want to show you for today is this refined value tab. Okay. And what it does is it shows you the basic information about the property, because remember, this is going to be parcel based. And then it's going to ask you, okay, what are you looking for? So let's use our example of the major kitchen upscale remodel. And there's obviously different ranges, but let's say we're gonna say this homeowner would put in a beautiful new kitchen, and obviously the older the remodel, the less it's worth. So we're gonna say they did it in June of last year. And I'm gonna say that they put in $20,000 into this remodel. And it's gonna kind of give you an example of what makes this upscale down here. When you click add improvement, even though you've walked in and they said, wow, we put 20 grand into our kitchen, we think we should get an extra 50 grand in our sales price, because sometimes they think like that, right? This is a way to print this in a report and say, you know what, it's beautiful. I love what you've done here. But actually, if we look at what we use as a blue book, as the National Association of Realtors, it says for this house, it's not going to bring you 50 grand, but it might bring you 5,500 additional. Again, you could do this with basements or bathrooms. And the reason I show you this is it gives you, instead of you giving an opinion, which remember I said, Floyd Wickman says, never give an opinion. They don't know you yet. You're earning their trust. I can give them an actual tangible report that says this, according to what the National Association of Realtors tool says. And a lot of people are using this to analyze flips. It's becoming even more and more popular. So it's a way to create a report that you can now show that value, that positive or negative value. All right, looks like we had another question. Okay, good. I hope that helped. And thanks so much for your input, Brooke, because I never knew where to find it. And I wish, like I said, I wish I was like Joanna Gaines and I could just do that in my head. I am not. So having a tool like that, I thought was really helpful, because I could not find any other place to really get it that was property specific. It does ask the agent a series of questions. So if you don't think the work was done well, you can actually create that in your value. But how I got there again was just RPR. It's actually right under Paragon in your resources. So what do you do with that number when you've got it? So now we've got that number. Now I'm going to go back into my CMA. And I'm going to plug that in as an adjustment. So under my notes and adjustments, maybe I'm going to say kitchen remodel. And I'm going to go down here because I want to talk about the remodel. And I want to say this kitchen remodel gave a positive, or in this case, let's say it needed to be remodeled. You could even do it that way too. So we could do a negative adjustment that we want to save in here too, bringing the adjusted price down. So I never knew, like I said, a place that you could do that. So I really liked it. And I said, when I show this in class, if people want to see it, I want to help them find it, because I could not find a good spot for that. Again, if you don't want to use a particular listing, you can always deselect it. You don't have to, but it is here, and you can actually go through and put notes on each individual one as I'm showing you. You can kind of go through them again on your own. Once you've selected what you want, and by the way, you could just leave this whole step done. Normally I do. There is also at the top where you can put in your own suggested price range. Here's another funny story that you can't make up. So this cute little brick ranch, right? Listing it, little 3-bedroom brick ranch. It was adorable. Every flower, I did drive by it. Every little flower was planted in a perfect straight row. The shutters painted perfectly. So I created my CMA to be reflective of a nice little updated house. I kid you not. I opened the front door and I was taking my shoes off. I stepped into Grover blue, not dark blue, Grover blue, 5-inch shag carpeting. Your foot just literally melted in it. It clearly had not been updated in quite some while, but not even that. Every room had those Brady Bunch stick-on wallflowers. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like, and I know they say that's coming back, but it ain't ever coming this far back. It was like those big orange sunflowers on every wall. And, I'm looking around thinking this clearly has not been updated since the 70s when this home was built. So my little, see, here's me, because this was back when we still printed our CMAs out, right? Here's me in the bathroom trying to rip my suggested page out, of my report. Now you can do that with one click, as I mentioned. But being able to go in and make those adjustments on the fly is huge. But the reason I'm mentioning this is you can actually do a suggested list price, and you can do it right while you're sitting there. So if you've walked in and you did what I did and you have this perfectly updated 3 comps that are perfectly updated, and you just stepped in on the Grover blue carpeting and you need to make an adjustment, keep in mind you can actually do that on this next field that I'm showing you, and that is your suggested list price. That can also be a price range. So where you're seeing right here, I can see our average sales price was $302. So maybe I haven't seen the home before and I want to give myself a little grace, and we're going to say 290,000 to 302. Maybe I want to see the home. Maybe you're one-stepping this and you want to just have that range. Now, there is also a net sheet here. I'm going to be honest, I do not do this here. I find this kind of a little bit of a pain. I actually use the net sheets either in zip form or in transaction desk, and I simply pull them in. And the reason I do it there, it does all the calculations and everything's listed out. This, you have to it'll save the items, but you always got to do the math, and I just don't have time for that. So it's just easier for me to do it when I'm filling out my forms and pull that in. I'll show you kind of an example. So I know you're probably thinking, well, this seems to be taking a while, but really in actuality, what we did is we pulled our comps, which was the hardest part, in through that easy button. This next step, if you wanted to put a suggested price in, or a price range even, you could. You could even do positive or negative adjustments. If you did nothing on this page, that's okay too. Now we're going to go into the one that really matters, and that's the customizing it. As I mentioned, everybody has cloud, what makes your cloud report the best? And it's really the information that you're providing, right? So basically everything in this right-hand column that says your CMA report, this is what's going to be in it right now. So again, if I want my company report in there, you can see all of it's loaded for me. But if I want to pull something that is not there, maybe I want to have maybe I want my agent resume in there. I can add that. Maybe for the listings, I want all of the photos, which I always like. I like all of the photos there. You can also drag and drop these in the order that you want. So you can drag different pages into different orders. But this is where you make it your own. This is where you're going to add in your custom pages, which are really what makes the report look like you've spent a lot more time on it. So if I go into my custom pages, this is where I'm going to add in things like those CMA sites that I want to make sure when my client asks me, am I going to be on Zillow? Yeah, I want to have that in there. So I can save that in my template, or if I haven't done that, I can go ahead and pull it in. I can pull up my stats from here. Again, if I want market stats in here, I want to have that ready to go. And I want to be able to pull that in there. So I'm going to show you how to get them in this list too in just a second, but I want you to kind of get the idea. Another example, so this was another market report I pulled in from Market Stats. Another example that recently happened to me, it was an out-of-country buyer who bought like 5 or 6 properties in Warren, a little neighborhood not too far from me. And he'd never been here. He literally purchased them and had renters in them, and called and said, hey, Colleen, I hear that you worked with a friend of mine. Hey, I want to sell these properties. I hear you're getting record prices. And, I'm all excited. So I'm like, okay. So I head over. Unfortunately, the renters had just left it a complete mess. Now, he's never seen this property. So again, I don't want to tell him like, oh my gosh, this is a mess, right? I don't want to be the alarmist agent. I just simply want to show him what's going on in these. Well, first I got there, it had been tagged for no C of O. And when I first got there, the lawn had not been cut. It was like halfway up the rails. It was a mess. Also, the stairway was falling away, so I wanted to be able to get some pictures of that. But all I did is I snapped some pictures. A lot of the cupboards had been pulled off the wall. And as a matter of fact, this was all water all over this floor. It's kind of hard to tell from here, but when I first got there, it was just water running on the floor. They had smashed in a lot of the cupboards, and it was kind of a mess. So long story short, I just went and took pictures of the property the way it stood. Well, first I took care of the water, then I took pictures of the property the way it stood, and I included those in my CMA. So instead of being the bad guy and giving my opinion, I've now presented him with the facts right in the CMA that I emailed to him. So these are all good examples. That one I mentioned had an outstanding water bill of several $100s. Some have outstanding tax bills. I bring those right into the report because I want to be able to give him all the information so that he can actually see it. Well, the first thing you do, if you've not used Cloud, you do want to make sure that your company colors are here. You do not want to show up. If you're at Remax, you don't want to show up with the Century 21 colors, right? So you want to make sure your brand is here. I do like the modern themes. I think check with those first. By the way, if you are with Real Estate One or Remax, either one of those, they have paid a small fortune for a custom library that you can take advantage of in here too. When it has the title of your company in Cloud CMA, it automatically opens up some things that, like, I'm not with Remax, so I don't see that here, but it will say Remax theme, and you can pick that one, or it'll say Real Estate One, you can pick that one, and it will have a bunch of custom pages that you can take advantage of too. The layout, that is how you want the comps only to be displayed. So again, if you are going to print this, well, maybe you want 4 or 5 comps on a page. I actually prefer the photo with max data. I think personally that one's the best because it will give you more detail from the MLS. But it's really just setting up your report so it looks like you want it to. If you don't know what a particular page is referring to, like suggested list price, maybe you want to see that, or maybe you want to see your sold property analysis, you can simply click on the little eye and it will actually show you a little preview of that particular page. Once you've got your pages all set up, what I recommend doing is just going up to your template. Save it and give it a name. Like in this case, we would call this Brooks template. And then all you have to do is hit save. Now that's saved. So every time you come in, that's front and center for you. If you are going to use what I'm going to show you towards the end, which is the web, there is an actual lead generation tool in here. If you name your template web lead, it will automatically allow you, when you're using this new cool tool that I'm going to show you, it will send any prospect all the information about you and your company along with some comps. I'm going to show that in a minute, but keep in mind you can create all different types of templates. There's some that they built in for you. If you click on built-in, it'll show you the ones that they made, like an appraiser report, buyer CMA, comps only, pre-listing package, and then of course all will give you anyone you have named here as well. All right, last, you just got to save it. Congratulations, your whole report is all ready to go. Takes about 20 seconds to save it. Anytime you open up that report, let's say that you want to change it up a little bit, you can just hit edit. Just remember, any changes you make, you want to hit publish to resave. Okay, so pretty easy to make any adjustment. Maybe they don't list right away. Maybe you want to update it a month from now. Really easy to do that. So 2 more quick things that I want to show you. You make the CMA the exact same way. The only difference is that new live interactive version. All you have to do, and this time you're not doing a PDF. It's not a locked PDF. It's your live interactive version. It's made the exact same way. Start in Paragon, find your comparables, and it's going to take you to the new interactive version. Maybe you're presenting this to that out-of-country buyer. You can go down and you can present it via Zoom, via Skype, via Google Hangout, or even Screen, which is the maker of Slack, in case you didn't know. And you can actually go right into your comps, or you can create your whole presentation. This is also where you can put in that live interactive resume. You can do so much here, but a couple I want to show you. When you go into comps, it's going to show you which one is closest to your property. And it will highlight, I love this part, it will highlight differences. Lot size is 16% smaller. Oh, but it has a larger garage. This one has one bathroom. This one has, so it will actually highlight the differences for you here. But remember how I said, what if you're here and the seller says, well, Colleen, what about Joe Schmagegi over on the corner? Why don't I see his house here? I should be compared to him. Well, all you're going to do is you're going to go up to this map right here. We're clicking on this map. And let's say that Joe Schmagegi's house is right here. This is the one he's inquiring on right over here on Frederick Street. When I go into the interactive map, if I want to add Joe Schmagegi's house, I just click on it and I can add it in by simply using the toggle. Or I can say, actually, you're a colonial and this is a brick ranch. That's why I didn't choose this particular one. However, I love the fact that you can include this right away. So all I have to do is if, let's say I did my CMA 3 days ago, this closed yesterday, I can toggle it right into my report. Now you can see it's added right here. And I can see the most expensive, the closest one. Actually, I can't believe this one's unconditional withdrawn. This one actually went pending before we closed this, or before we went on the market here. So anyway, long story short, I can see all of that right in my bird's eye view here. And all you have to do to add that interactive map is just click on the map function and zoom in or out and find that specific property they're talking about. Okay. All right, so that is really the big difference, is just how do you want to present your CMA? Do you want to present it in the PDF that you could save to your desktop, or do you want to do it in that live format? So the next question I always get is, well, Colleen, how'd you get those custom pages in that list so that you could add them? Really, really easy. Remember how I showed you inside what makes all of our CMAs different is really in your report under Customize. Now I have a ton, you won't have this many, but teaching in all different areas, I've kind of collected things over the years. So if I wanted to add the BS&A record, again, I click on the plus, it's going to drop it in there and I can drag and drop it where I want on my report. But how do you get them in this list? Really, really simple. You're going to go over to your icon at the top here in the top right, and hopefully your GoToWebinar isn't covering it. But you're going to go to that icon to the right, and you're going to go to Custom Pages. This is where you can either edit a pre-made page. So let's say you wanted to do that company, about your company that I showed you in the beginning. You can click on that pencil icon. You can add links. You can add movies. You can add, I just simply copied and pasted what was on our company website, but you can customize it right here. You can add additional pages as well. So I can add in something, but you can click Colleen's marketing plan. And I can create a template for that and copy and paste. So you can call them whatever you want, or you can use the pre-generated. But this is where you can pull in PDFs. So as I mentioned, I save everything as a PDF, like those photos that I took of the home. I like to also bring in the MLS ticket from the MLS, my market stats. So how do I get them in here? All you're going to do, I think I got some of these out of here, but every time I teach a class, I add 2 more. Let me show you this too. Remember how I said I like to pull in my net sheets from either zip form or transaction desk? See how it auto calculates everything and it looks all fancy. It looks a lot better than what I would be able to make there. So I just pull those in from zip form or transaction desk as a PDF, and now it's going to calculate that all for me. I just think it looks a little nicer, and I don't always have to do the math that way. So the key is to pull those additional pieces in, go to upload your PDF, and all you're doing is telling Cloud on your desktop where those are. So let's say I wanted to add, we'll say that we're going to add our handout. You're going to hit upload. It's going to add that to your custom pages, and now it will show up on that list, and you can pull it right into your Cloud CMA report. All right, I know I'm running low on time, so I want to show you 2 more quick things. One, if you're like me, by now you're probably like, oh my gosh, I'm totally overwhelmed. which kind of happens when you're showing this much information. So I want to show you where you can find this class recording. So give me about a day to edit it and get it here. But I'm also going to show you where you can find upcoming classes. I'm also going to show you where you can find the cheat sheet for everything we just went over. It's kind of like a checklist. It'll show you exactly how to go through it. That's all going to be found under resources and education. Every single MLS will see this here. If you wanted to watch this recorded class again, so give me about a day to get it up there, all you have to do is click on recorded classes and click on videos. Every single class that we teach is going to be here. You want to know how to use Kubacasa, a floor plan app you get for free through your MLS. You just click on it. It will start to play. You can even save it to your computer if you wanted to, but it's a really just an easy way to find all of our classes. Okay, so you'll have Cloud CMA up. I'll have it uploaded tomorrow. But let's say you just want to see what other upcoming classes we have. Under that same area, under resources, you can go to our education corner. This is basically like our education newsletter. This will show you every class we have for the third quarter of this year. If you wanted a Paragon tips and tricks or Collab Center, that great auto prospecting for buyers that will send them immediately new listings that come on the market. Maybe you want to know more about using BS&A and tax records, or maybe you want to know more about transaction desk, or we've created a new class called the Tools for Tackling Low Inventory, or Kubacasa. You can literally click on the Register Now button and it'll allow you to register just like you did for today's event. It will send you a reminder email and get you registered for the class. So you can find that under resources as well. Lastly, I'm kind of a checklist girl, and sometimes you just want to find a quick checklist that's going to walk you through doing a CMA. Right up here, and it's very hidden, I apologize, but right up here where it says MLS Documents, this is where all your cheat sheets are. So when you open MLS Documents, you'll find the Education folder. Where it says MLS Folders, you'll find Education. There are 76 checklists. If you want to find all the ones for Cloud CMA, just type in the word Cloud in the find box. And let's say you wanted to know how to add custom pages to Cloud CMA. It will actually allow you to print off or even save that exact document. It will show you step by step how we just did that. So there's great tools. Don't think, we're showing you this at a rapid pace and now you're out on your own. Keep in mind that no matter what MLS you belong to, that you have free tech support 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The tech support information, well, there's a phone number and an email, but if you simply go up to Paragon right up here at the top where it says help, it will open up tech support information. Again, 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Here's the phone number, or you can simply contact us at support@myrealstores. I think it's .net.com. I always forget if it's .net or .com. It's .com. So all of that is located right in Paragon too. The last thing I want to show you, and I've only got 1 minute, so I'm going to go fast, is the new lead generation tool that they have. Everybody's trying to pick up listings, right? It is an actual squeeze page. And what that means is it actually doesn't just allow you to put information out onto social media, it captures their information and sends it back to you. It's great to be an agent and put stuff out there, but it's a lot better when you get their name, phone number, and email address, and you can actually make them a lead, right? And that's what it's designed to do. So lastly, we're going to just kind of close up on that. If you do have any questions, now's a great time to put them in the questions box. But basically, where you find this squeeze or capture page, I'm going to close some of these so it's not quite so distracting here, is right in your Cloud CMA account. Okay, so right in Cloud, kind of where we went to add those custom pages, there's another tab that says lead generation. This automatically creates a landing or squeeze page for you. So if I click on view my landing page, it kind of shows you exactly what this looks like. When people click on it from your post, and I'm going to show you an example one, it will actually give you their contact information and it will send out whatever you've saved in your web lead template that I showed you in Cloud. So let me kind of give you an example. Again, I kind of like to show the finished product first so you can say, oh yeah, that makes sense. I could do that. So what I do is I have a business page and a personal page, and you want to make sure that those are connected. But here's a good example. We kind of looked at market stats. There's a lot of pieces to market stats, by the way. Take the market stats class because we'll actually show you how to use live interactive graphs like this on social media. So I just clicked on it from my post, but it does interactive things and it's really kind of cool. And then you're going to create, as you're sharing that, a nice little post like, are you on the fence about selling your home now or waiting until the next spring market? Look at these incredible numbers. Sellers are getting so much more for their homes today than they did just 3 years ago due to the massive lack of inventory. For example, in Shelby, if you have a 1,500 square foot home versus 2 years ago, you'll make $40,000 more on average selling today. So anyway, I did my call to action. But here's where you want them to click on your squeeze page I just showed you. So I tied two of our lead generation tools together, if you will. But now what I want is I said, hey, if you want to know what your home is worth, give me a call, or you can just simply click on the link below. When they click on that link below, here's what happens. Your squeeze page now is here. And they think, you know what, I'm not really ready to talk to a realtor yet, but I'm going to just find out by clicking here what my home is going to be worth. They start typing. It auto-fills, right? And it's going to say, great news, we found it. Just put in your name. Oops, see if you spell your name correctly. And it's an optional phone number. They don't have to use it, but they do have to put a correct email address. And it does verify that because it's going to email the report to them. And it'll say, congratulations, here's Colleen's phone number if you want a more accurate valuation of your home. But what just happened behind the scenes is I got an email with what got sent to them, and I also got their contact information. If I go back into Cloud, I can also see exactly what was just sent to them, which is what's in your web lead template, and it will have this little lead button. So I know that this is an active lead that just came in. Of course, you'll get an email right away so that you can follow up with them. But it's really just a way to connect you and the lead. It does not give them the number. Let's see, is there a way to make the font on my home page of the MLS larger? Oh, yes, I can help you with that. So basically it doesn't tell them what their home is worth. Just to recap, all it does is deliver a couple random comps that it's automatically generating and your contact information. Now it's up to you to follow up as the lead. Inside your squeeze page, there's a couple other things too. Inside your squeeze page, you can also attach this or embed this as you can grab that link. I have it in my email signature. So anybody who wants to know what their home is worth, I just have it say, want to know what your home is worth? Click here. You can embed that on your website. You can put it in your email signature, share it on Facebook or Pinterest. If you don't want it to be automatic, if you just want it to deliver the contact information to you and you follow up, you can even deselect that. So a lot of great information. Again, this is all covered in our lead generation class. There's a whole class just for that, our tackling the tools of low inventory. So I know I went over this at a rapid pace. Brooke, to answer your question too, let me kind of go back. If you were looking to make your home page a little larger, you can actually, and I don't know if you're a PC user or a Mac user, if you're a PC user and you hold down your Control Plus, that will actually blow up the screen a little bit for you so that it looks larger, if that makes it easier. If you hold down your Control minus, and you're doing that together, by the way, you can see that's making your font smaller. So if you are a PC user, you're going to hold down your Control Plus to make the font bigger, and Control plus your minus will make it smaller. If you are a Mac user, you can do that same thing. Okay, good. I'm glad that helped. Okay, good. I know sometimes it's really hard to see. It's a lot. They're changing that space, so it will be more like what you see in Paragon Connect, which is the mobile app. And that's why there's still a little bit of white space while they're doing that formatting. So pretty soon that's going to do it for you, but not quite there yet. So hopefully that helped. I want to thank you. I ran about 4 minutes over, so I apologize, but hopefully that helped. and it gave you a couple time saving tips. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the nice words too. I appreciate it. So go out there, please list some homes. We certainly need lots of inventory. So go out and use these CMAs to capture lots of new listings. It's important that we win all of those listing appointments. So thanks so much. Happy selling, and I hope you have a great day, everybody. Have a great day.